remember all those Republicans who said that Gavin Newsom should resign after the California wildfires and said that he wasn't doing enough despite the fact that he got the federal government to pay for every single dime of damage? Where are those people now that Trump is denying FEMA funding to Arkansas? The Republican governor of Arkansas is begging Trump to reconsider denial of disaster relief after 3 storms hit Arkansas last month, leading to 3 deaths. And not a peep from those MAGA people. Not a peep from the people screaming about Gavin Newsom. Are you joking me? Did they just truly not get this information, or are they embarrassed? Because this is so embarrassing. They are so pathetic.
Breaking news, Donald Trump's about to put more tariffs on the world, and rightfully so, because they're working. Facts don't care about your feelings, Democrats. You can complain, argue, and bicker all you want, protest all you want, but let's look at the facts. Inflation went down from 3% to 2.5% in 2 months because of tariffs. Billions of dollars per company, I think it was like over $5 trillion total from all these companies are investing in America because of tariffs. More and more countries are coming to renegotiate their horrible trade deal, in all fairness, other than China, because of tariffs. And guess what else is going down? Egg prices. I know you guys were a big advocate of the egg prices being the big indicator of why Donald Trump's failing. Well, now egg prices is down, gas is down, everything is going down, the cost of living is going down, and more money is coming into the pockets of ordinary middle-class citizens thanks to Donald Trump and tariffs. When are you guys going to wake up to the fact that tariffs are freaking awesome?
Oh, another farmer in that find out stage we all love. Meet Jim Hartman, a honey farmer from North Carolina that was getting $150,000 a year in government contracts. But wait for it, the 2 other great kickers are Jim gets all of his packaging supplies from China. And can you guess where Jim's labor comes from? That's right, south of the border. But Jim couldn't help himself. Jim has now voted for Donald Trump 3 times. And when Jim hears Donald Trump's racism, he can't help but put himself in financial peril to go run and vote for Donald Trump a 3rd time. And as you can see from the headline of this article, the only thing that Mr. Hartman understands is, I lost $150,000. He doesn't care about how he's affected so many families in America, how innocent people are being deported and sent to El Salvador, or about how folks like him have ushered in an era of fascism in the United States. But Jim wants us all to feel sorry about him losing his grip on the teat of the American government. Jim, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, bud. Right? Not that hard.
Oh yeah. Here in North Dakota, we definitely are regretting our votes for Grandpa Tariff. Oh yeah, me and my husband run a seed farm up here, and Daddy runs a soybean farm. And the tariffs are hitting North Dakota harder than almost any other state. Yeah, we're really concerned about it. Last time Trump was president, we had to get a bailout, and we were hoping that this time it would be better, but I'm not seeing any signs that we're gonna get spared this time around either. We had to pick up a couple pieces of steel in West Fargo yesterday, and we asked them if the tariffs had been affecting the prices yet, and they said just talking about the tariffs affects the price. You know, China will start going to Brazil and Africa for their soybeans, and then they'll establish relationships and we'll get completely cut out of the loop. Trump says it's short-term pain for long-term gain. So far in my life, I've never seen the tariffs do any gain for any of us farmers here in North Dakota. I'm not really even sure why we voted for him.
In what can only be called the most predictable response that every functionally breathing human throughout the world could have told us would happen, we kicked the dragon, then we ran away, and the dragon is still chasing us. Over the weekend, China decided that they didn't care about the fact that Trump canceled the tariffs on computers, smartphones, and toys, and decided to cancel their imports of U.S. beef. And these are targeted red state attacks on our agriculture industries that are very strategically done. It's over $2.5 billion of beef exports. And despite the fact that Republicans have stated over and over again over the course of the past week that China needs us more than we need them, they went ahead and replaced us with Australian beef. Now, which state has the most number of beef exports in our country, you might be asking? The answer would be Nebraska, which, if you recall, said a couple weeks ago that they have a $4 million budget shortfall. The cancellation of beef comes immediately after China already canceled soybean imports from the United States, which directly impacts the state of Indiana.
Video, and I apologize for that ahead of time, but the truth is it's got to be told. Many of you remember before the election, I did several videos where I tried to speak to rural America, particularly farmers and ranchers, to talk to them about the ramifications of a second term for Donald Trump. And in several of those videos, I talked about the fact that if we were to elect Donald Trump and he were to impose a second round of tariffs on China, the results would be devastating. And if you think hard about it, you'll remember what we talked about. Number one, we talked about the fact that China wasn't prepared for the tariffs in the first Trump administration. They had a disease going through their hog population. They didn't have good stocks of row crops. So they were caught off guard, and they had to continue to buy some American pork and some American row crop products in order to survive the tariffs, especially the time of C-19. But we also talked about what's happened since then. The Chinese no longer have a disease going through their pork population, and they're well stocked in pork. And in addition to that, they've reached out to South America and made best friends with the governments of Brazil and Argentina. And they are importing a lot of wheat and corn and soybeans from South America to the point where Brazil, which used to supply China with only 13% of their row crops.
Yo, check this out. Farmers that voted for Donald J. Trump right now have gone to a staffing agency because Donald Trump got the immigrants so in fear of coming to work that they have turned around now and went to a staff agency. Now, this is in Louisiana, and I checked the temperature there, and the temperature there on average between May and June is like 90 to 95 in June. So they want you to work for $11 an hour, 9 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Are they stupid? They really want y'all to go back. This is what they want to set up the system and keep it white. So where all the jobs that paying good money are white jobs, and then jobs like this, they're going to try to force back on the black community. I won't be surprised that in the near future, next couple of years or so, that we will have a same thing convention thing where industries where the government and the farmers going to hook up where the convicts will come out and work those fields, and the government gets paid for it, if you get what I mean. Modern day slavery. And you know who the majority of the people are that's in the penitentiaries. This is the sounds of the man's working on the chain gang. Yep. They're going to have inmates doing these jobs when it comes down to it. Because ain't no human being is going to go out there and work for $11 an hour, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you're getting up at power about 5:30 in the morning? My God. This is the stuff that the Trump administration have equivalent and have done to our country. So now we don't have no migrants to work these jobs. And so now these jobs are going to end up turning around and go back, going to try to push them onto the black community. But we like what Kamala Harris said, we're not going back to the fields, homie. So you better figure out something else to do. Because this ain't going your way like you thought it was going to go your way. Peace.
I'm going to try to get through this without crying. My name is Louise, and me and my family own a wheat farm in Kansas. We are all certainly lifelong Republicans, and we were so happy to vote for Trump in all 3 of his elections. However, we were certainly not aware that he was going to put a funding freeze on all USAID. 100% of our wheat produce is bought by USAID and shipped out of the country. So our farm is completely bankrupt. We have no customer. We had this whole deal with the US government, and now that is just gone in a second. And we are completely decimated. USAID buys about $2 billion worth of American farmers' goods annually, and every single one of those farms is in the same boat as us now. It's a sinking boat. He didn't consider us at all when he made these decisions, and it would be impossible for any world leader to do something that could negatively affect us more than what Trump has done to us. And we voted for him.
Americans did not think that they could turn into an authoritarian dictatorship, a fascist police state with a collapsing economy. Yet it's happening right now. And a lot of people, again, didn't vote. They didn't think to themselves that this could possibly happen. They thought it was just not within the realm of reality that Donald Trump could be reelected. Yet here we are, and we are only like 100 days into this at this point. And it's a catastrophe for the U.S. There's no doubt about it. And it's a catastrophe for the world, too, because so much innovation happens in the U.S. Manufacturing happens all over the world, but innovation, generally, a lot of it has happened in the U.S. That's going to move away. Of course, China is a super innovative country, and much of Europe is also very innovative. But we're watching the collapse of the U.S. economy. But worse than that, we're seeing a pattern of undermining democracy. A judge was arrested yesterday in the U.S., not just investigated, look, we're investigating you for this, not just, laying a charge, going through all of those very strict approval things that you would expect for a judge. No, they were just arrested, held in custody for bail. This is now set a precedent. And if you think that that can't happen in Canada, I'll tell you right now, it can. Much of what Poilievre talks about, he had denied for the longest time that he was a Trumpist, that he was MAGA. But now that he's been declining in the polls, he's come out and he's gone full MAGA in the last little while. He's talked about overriding the Charter of Rights. He's talked about deporting people the same way that the U.S. is doing it, without any proper procedure, just picking people up off the street, putting them on planes and deporting them. If you think that can't happen in Canada, it can. The Conservatives and the Republicans are the same thing. The American, the people who work on the campaigns in the U.S. for the Republican Party come to Canada when we have a federal election, even when we have a provincial election, and they work for the Conservatives. They go around the world working for each other. There's dirty money in it, because Republicans and Conservatives feel that that's okay for them to cheat. They believe in cheating. The rest of us look at it and say this is wrong, but they can skirt the rules wherever they can to get by. Remember that Poilievre had to sign a declaration that he violated the rules at one point and had a consent agreement with Elections Canada. That was just one of other examples of things that he did. But these are people who have, again, dirty money coming in from out of country to try and influence our election, and they think that's okay. They think that's okay. So think about that, right? We have our general election is coming on Monday. We have an opportunity to have perhaps the best person in the world as our prime minister in Mark Carney. The guy's got a PhD from Oxford, bachelor's degree from Harvard, and is connected internationally to know what to do to protect our economy. He's dealt with two major crises in his life already, where he was brought in to be able to be the guy who dealt with it, and he was able to minimize the damage in those circumstances for Canada and the UK. We have an existential threat with the United States. The MAGA people want to undermine Canada because they want to be taken over by the U.S. That would be a terrible catastrophe for Canada. Just think of the economic implications for you and your household. Your house will be worthless, okay? But among other things, it would just be a catastrophic circumstance for us, where we would lose much of what we think is important as Canadians, our healthcare, our education. They're undermining those things, they're ruining them in the States. But we have, public healthcare. People don't realize just how valuable that is. And our sense of compassion for one another that we have in Canada. But the conservatives are looking to undermine our situation, to just, kneel at Trump's knee. And that is what Poilievre will do. And that will just damage our economy. They want to shrink our society. They want to shrink our economy. All he ever talks about is cuts. Okay. He doesn't want to grow out of anything. He doesn't want us to improve. He just wants to cut. The slash and burn. He read one book. Okay. He read one book. He may not even have read it. He knows about one book on economics, and that book says slash, cut. And that's the only thing he knows how to do. And that is just going to weaken Canada like it did under Harper, weaken Canada, take us from a good fiscal position to a weak fiscal position. This is our opportunity to not make the same mistake that the Americans made. So it is absolutely essential that you encourage your friends and family to get out and vote for Mark Carney, to get out and vote for the Liberals. We have had good management for the last 10 years. We got through the pandemic. We've had low unemployment. We've had a strong economy generally, although it's been tough after coming through the pandemic. We've had inflation has been an international issue and has been less in Canada than in many other locations. We have done okay in Canada, and despite all of these significant headwinds, and we will be so much better placed when we've got Mark Carney as Prime Minister, because he is an actual expert. He's not a guy who just read one book. He's a guy who knows exactly what he's doing. So think about it, having an actual expert. Who would you rather have perform surgery on you? Would you like to have somebody who's an expert heart surgeon, or would you like the guy who's got opinions on it? Okay. Pierre Poilievre has spent 20 years with opinions, and he's never gained any expertise in anything. He hasn't passed any legislation. He's accomplished nothing. He's built the system. He's been campaigning for 2 years. He's accomplished nothing. We need somebody who is accomplished. We have the opportunity to send a message to the world that in Canada, we recognize expertise. We recognize that smart people, come from Canada and can do the job. And so on Monday, you make sure you get out and you vote Liberal, because that is the greatest chance we have to defeat this negative view of Canada and to ensure that Canada is strong, sovereign, and stable in the future.